Hi everyone, my name is Claudia and I'm with Time for Stamping. If you'd like to follow me on my blog, it's timeforstamping.com. The 4 is the number 4. So once again, that's timeforstamping.com. And that's where I post the supply list for the projects I make, as well as cardstock dimensions you need to create these projects. Now these look like simple, basic cards. I've made a couple Christmas cards here. And there's just one simple cut you do to make these just a little bit special. Now this looks like the front of the card, but when you open it up, it's still on the inside. So it's just a very simple cut. Same with this. It has the sentiment, and you open it up, and it combines with that larger sentiment there. Now I use the Joyful Tidings as well as the Child is Born stamp sets for these. But you can use any Christmas or any other stamp set that you happen to have when you make this design. It's a very simple step to do, and I'll show you exactly what you need. So I'm going to get started by making this card, and the base is garden green, and for the cut, it's your typical 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4 1/4, and then you go down 1 1/4 inch, make a cut, and then cut all the way to the end. And if you're doing it this way, it's the same thing, 1 1/4 inch down, score the rest of it, and this is at 4 1/4, or 4 1/4. And then once you have that cut at 1 1/4, you just cut all the way to the side. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Now for this card, I've already pre-cut and embossed a piece of basic beige. And this is 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it on this front panel here. Now I'd like to use Tombow glue. I know some people like to use the tape runners. Stampin' Up! Does sell a tape runner. It's called Seal. And that's just a little bit smaller than the square that's left once you cut the base, which this would be 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So my beige piece is 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. And the next piece I have is a piece of gold foil that I trimmed with the deckled circles die. And I believe this is a retired set. But again, you could use any circle die you have. Some people have the stitched circles. This is the deckled circles, or just the plain circle would work as well. So I'm just gluing that right in the middle of that front panel. All right. And my next piece, I have a piece of basic white. And you could make this like 4 1/2 by 4 1/2 and stamp it. Or I actually trimmed it already with the next size down of the deckled rectangles, and it's going to go right on there. But this is the piece I'm going to stamp on, and this is with the Joyful Tidings stamp set, and I'm using shaded spruce to do my stamp, and that's going to fit right in this circle. Okay, so we have it like that. Let me close this so I don't get ink all over the place. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of coloring on this. And for these little tiny leaves or needles here, I'm using light grainy apple green. So I'm using the pen end. It's a little bit easier to control than the brush end, especially when you have just little tiny spaces like this. And it's really just one stroke is all you need to color these little leaves or pine needles. I think they're just little leaves, almost like a fern or a juniper, I guess, for Christmas. So again, I'm just using light granny apple green Stampin' Blends to color these, which I stamped with shaded spruce. Very simple color. Just one little stroke of the pen, basically. And it's a nice contrast to the dark shaded spruce color that I stamped it with, so it does make it pretty festive looking. Now I've chosen to use this as a Christmas card, but again, you could use this same design, card-based design for any stamp set that you have, any occasion that you want to use, whether it's a birthday or thinking of you, get well, congratulations, new baby. It's very adaptable to any occasion that you are making a card for. So once I finish with this garden green, I'm going to color these little pine cones that are here. And for that, I have light and dark pecan pie. So I am going to use the brush end for this. And this is just a simple little color of the light pecan pie, adding just a few little dots of dark pecan pie, and they kind of blend in very easily. You don't even really have to do a lot of blending here. When the ink is wet, it just blends itself. And these pine cones are kind of hiding a little bit, so you have to make sure that you're getting all of them. I was making one of these yesterday, and I thought I was done coloring, and then looked at it and saw a little pine cone that I missed. Okay, I think I got them all. And the next thing I'm going to color are these little citrus sides, and I'm making them as oranges. So again, I'm using the light pumpkin pie and just coloring the whole thing with light pumpkin pie, and then going over some of it with the darker shade, the fruit part of it, I guess you would say, just to give that a little bit of contrast. And I see one little leaf that I missed when I was coloring with the granny apple, so I'll have to go back and get that. Now this particular design has these pine branches as well as these little berries, and when you're stamping it, it's obviously stamped with the color that you're using. Let me get that one little leaf there. There we go. But just to add a little bit of more color to it, I'm taking my real red, the light color, and just dotting right over these little berries. And although the green shows through a little bit, it does change the color a little bit more like a berry. And I like the way that little bit of red just perks it right up. Okay, so we're done with that. Now I'm going to stamp a greeting here. And again, this is from the Joyful Tidings stamp set, which looks like this. Let me back you down here. And you can see this is the stamp we used, and I'm going to be using this Tidings of Joy this Christmas season. And then the inside will say, "May the wonder and magic of Christmas fill you with delight." So for this, to bring up that color, those little berries, I'm using real red to stamp this. I want to make sure this is on perfectly straight. It's the one disadvantage of the red rubber. You can't see exactly where you're stamping. So you have to make sure that it's perfectly straight on your block. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm going to put that on top of my gold. Now, generally speaking, if you try to glue this on your gold, it's going to slide around a little bit because the gold is really slippery. So I'm choosing to put this up on dimensionals. The dimensionals will stick on the gold without a problem, and you don't have to worry about that sliding around. It will eventually dry, but you'll have to wait like, an hour or so before that will dry on there. Okay. And as you can see, the Stampin' Blends does bleed through your cardstock a little bit. Now this didn't go all the way through, but you have to be mindful of that. And always stamp on or color on a scrap of something underneath, just in case it goes all the way through. You don't want it on your table or tablecloth or anything like that. Okay, so that's the front. One more thing that I wanted to do was I have some red rhinestones here, and I'm just going to add one again to bring out that red and just put it right there. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so now for the inside, I have a piece of basic white, and this is 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and that's going to go right in there. And the first thing I'm going to do is stamp my sentiment. Again, this is from the Joyful Tidings stamp set, and I'm using real red. So you do want to make sure that you're not stamping it up real high so that it would show on part of the part that shows on the front. So if you need to, you can just set that right there, and then you'll know exactly where you want to stamp that. Okay, isn't that pretty? And the red just looks so nice. It's such a nice contrast with the green. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, you can do this last or you can do it next. I'm actually going to do it now because it'll give me a better idea of where I want to put those little pine branches and pine cones that I have. My glue is running out. Did bring another one down here. Oh, come on. Okay, so that is going on the inside of my card, like that. And now I'm going to be decorating the top part here with some embellishments that I cut from the branching out set. Now, one of the things they have is this pretty little clump of, I guess, pine needles, pine boughs. And I'm actually going to cut this apart and put one like this, cut that little end off, and put the other one facing the other way, like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. And that's one thing when I teach classes that a lot of people, when they get a embellishment like this, when they die cut it, they hesitate or don't think about, I can cut that apart and have two little pieces. It doesn't have to stay together exactly the way it's cut with the die. So you can use it to fit whatever type of embellishment you want. So I'm putting it like that. Okay, and then again I have, this is from the same die set, the branching out. And this, again, I'm just going to trim some of these little berries off of here. And this is out of real red. So I just want to cut that. And we'll just use these little parts here. Before I put those on, I have a couple little gold foil pine cones that I made. And again, this is from the branching out set. And I'm just setting them there so that I see exactly where I want to put the berries. And then I'll glue the pine cones on top of that. Okay, so this is going to go about like that. So that those, you see those little berries. And then this one, the same thing. Just a little bit of glue. A couple dots here and there. And we'll have that coming out on that side. Okay, so then I can go ahead and glue my pine cones in place. So we'll put one like this. And I'm just tilting them a little bit. And the other one coming off like that. So it really kind of dresses up the front of it. Again, we're bringing the red in with the sentiment in that little rhinestone. And then it decorates the front really nicely. And then again, when you open it up, you still see that beautiful little embellishment there. Now the other thing you can do, if you choose, is to use some Wink of Stella and just go ahead and put some of that, touch your little pine branches just to give it a little extra shimmer. I like using this. It just, I guess it's the sparkly stuff that makes it look so pretty. So I'm not sure the camera is picking that up, but it just adds an extra little touch of glamour to it. Okay, so there is that card. You can maybe see the sparkles on that now. Okay, so there's the first card. The next one I do is going to be with the Child is Born stamp set. And again, this is 8.5 by 5.5. It's scored at 4 1/4, and then on the score line you cut down 1 1/4 inch down, and then just straight across to the end. Okay, so this will be, folded that the wrong way. This will be the front. Let me see, I have just a little nib here that didn't quite cut through all the way. It must be time to change my blade on my machine. Okay, so there is the front of the card. And then my first layer, I have a piece, this is out of Night of Navy. Now on the sample I made, I used Misty Moonlight for my card base, but I'm going to see what it looks like with Night of Navy this time. And this is a piece of boho blue. And this is, again, 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. So it's going to leave just a little border of the Night of, whoop, I cut it too long. Oh my goodness. I cut one side too long. I'll have to cut that. I don't have my trimmer here, so hopefully I will get this straight with my scissors. It should be 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. There we go. Okay, let's see if that works. That does. Okay, so now we see the little border of the Night of Navy around there, like that. My next layer, I hope I cut this one right. Nope, I cut that one too big as well. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, so I need to trim this. This would be 4 inches by 4 inches. I must have grabbed the wrong piece when I was cutting. Okay, so that will go like that. We're going to do a little bit of stamping on this first. Now the first thing I'm going to stamp is the little creche. Okay, and I'm using Night of Navy ink for that. And I'm going to stamp that towards the bottom, but not quite at the very bottom edge. So it'll be about like that. All right. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I have a small blending brush and my Misty Moonlight. And I need a small piece of cardstock or paper just to use as a mask. Here we go. So I just have an old piece of cardstock that I'm using, and I want to put this from the middle of the top here to the edge, and I don't want to cover up the creche, so I want it to look about like that. So I'm going to go, if you want to put a little mark there, right about the halfway mark. Okay, and then I have, again, Misty Moonlight, my small brush, and I'm just going to go ahead, bring that in from the side, and put some color on that. Now, if you wanted to, you could add some Night of Navy to this if you wanted it a little bit darker. And when you're doing this, always remember to come in from the side so that it doesn't leave a big blotch when you set it down. And hold that mask in place nice and tight. And I kind of like the color of that so far. So I'm going to take that off, and you see what a nice edge that made. So again, I'm going to go to the top and just to the other side of the crush, like that. And then we'll go ahead again and color this. This is with Misty Moonlight and my blending brush. Make that as dark or as light as you want. And since I'm trying to make this look like nighttime, I want it a little bit darker, not the pale blue. But this is a good technique for when you want to make a sky, like if you want to make a sunset or sunrise or just a stormy looking sky. You can add different colors to it. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now I have my sky. And the reason I have that is because I'm going to put a star there, the Star of Bethlehem, as if it's shining down on the baby. Okay. But before I do that, I want to add some little stars with silver powder and silver embossing. So I want to make sure that that ink is completely dry, or my embossing powder is going to stick to that ink, even though it's not Versamark. So what I'm going to do here is just take my heat tool and blow this for a minute just to make sure that's dry. Okay, so now what I can do is I have in this set, the Child is Born set, there's a couple series of little star stamps here. One is larger, one is smaller. Now for my sample, I used this larger one that has the larger star in it, you can see here. But for this one, I'm going to try using the other one that has just the smaller stars to it. So I'm using Versamark. And I'm just going to go ahead and stamp this in a couple places just to add some interest to it and see where I'm at here. As you know, the Versamark is clear. Oh my goodness, that wasn't completely dry, I guess. So I'm going to have some extra silver on there. So let's try this side and see what happens. Just adding a few little stars. I did one yesterday, and some of that powder stuck to the blue, and it actually looked quite pretty. It added a little extra sparkle to it. So we'll give that a try and see what it looks like. So let me show you again the difference here. This one just has the larger stars on it, and the background is pretty clear. This one has some little extra sparkle to it because some of that powder stuck a little bit. So that looks good too. It looks like I planned it that way, right? So now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and glue this onto my card front. And that's going to go over that boho blue layer. Like this. Okay. Oh, I see what happened here. I didn't even cut this correctly. Oh my gosh, look at that. Yep, I didn't even cut that correctly. I don't know where my head was at here with this one. We'll just go ahead and trim that up a little bit. And again, I should be using a trimmer, but I did not bring my trimmer down here. So I'm just winging it with my scissors. Okay, there we go. All right, now let's see how these are. These are probably going to be too big as well. Yep. Oh my gosh. I don't think this has ever happened before, but there's a first time for everything, right? So no worries. We'll just go ahead and trim this. And this one as well. Good thing I can cut straight, right? Okay, so those will be good for the inside. All right, let me put the little star on here. This is a little tiny star that I trimmed out of silver foil, and this is from the Peace on Earth set. So I'm going to put that right on the top there of that white, like if it's shining down, causing the light to shine down. All right, the other thing I've done is I've gone ahead and stamped the little sheep and the sheep mama on basic white, and I used gray granite to stamp those. And I'm just going to go ahead and put those up on dimensionals just so that there's a little bit more interest, little dimension to the front. So these do have to be fussy cut. There's not a die for these animals. So let's just put her right down here. And then the little lamb we'll put on the other side. I'm just cutting some smaller pieces of dimensional since the lamb is a bit smaller. And the little lamb will sit right here on this side. Okay, so that makes the front there. But again, we're going to be decorating this inside with the sentiments so that that one sentiment will show from the front of the card when it's closed. So this is my piece of boho blue. And then this will be the piece of basic white that goes in here. And when you close it, you're going to see that basic white. So I have, now the stamp set, A Child is Born, does have a stamp that says, for unto us a child is born. But I wanted one that was longer, kind of stretched out. So I'm using a retired set that says, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. And I'm using Night of Navy. And I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that right on that top part that's going to show through. So I want to make sure that this is exactly where I want it to be. And then I will go ahead and stamp this so that it's even like that, so that when it's closed, you will see that on the top. Okay, so now I can go ahead and put my sentiment, and again, I'm using a sentiment from a retired set called Night in Bethlehem, and I like it because it really gives you the reason for the season, and it matches, I think, this child is born sentiment pretty well. So that will go right there. Wishing you a season of joy as we remember the night when love came down to earth and became our song of celebration. So all I have to do now is go ahead and glue this in place, and we'll be done with this card. Okay, so again, if you want the supply list that I used for these two cards, as well as the cardstock dimensions, and I promise they're right. I don't know why I miscut them on this particular card, but the cardstock dimensions will be on my blog later today, okay? And I hope the YouTube video will be up later today as well. Thanks for watching me. I hope you like these cards and give them a try. If you'd like to leave a comment or question, please feel free to do so, and I will get back with you as soon as I can. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye-bye now.